What illegal thing do you do on a regular basis? When I was a kid, I thought it was normal that we could buy movies the day after they came out from the Chinese lady in the chicken shop. I didn't realize it was a crime until middle school, when I told someone my grandma had Avatar on DVD, and they said that was impossible since the movie was still in theaters. I remember I worked for a couple of Indian folks back in the day, and they were boasting about having the new Transformers movies through some download service, and because I wanted to see the movie so bad, I caved and asked them about it. For some reason, I was concerned that surely I would be the one to get in some kind of trouble for it. Anyway, I go home, convince myself to download the movie at around 11 p.m., start playing it just after midnight, and some point within the next 30 minutes, I hear a loud and urgent-sounding knock on my front door, after midnight, after downloading this video. I tiptoe down and say, "Who is it?" through the door, where they then announced it was the City of Dam Police to please open up. What the hell? I opened the door and they quickly stated there was a break-in at the place I worked at and managed for, that I need to go in to make a statement and check things over. Last time I ever downloaded a movie. First time was enough for me. During football season, I provide verbal accounts of the game without consent of the NFL. That actually isn't illegal. You are free to talk about the game you saw. I wrote an entire book where I describe what happened in baseball games in every ballpark in the United States. MLB couldn't do shit about it. It is not illegal to describe or give an account of sporting events. You can talk about games without infringing copyright. This is not a case of the NFL politely looking the other way while most of America, in public and private, in casual conversations and in commercial broadcasts, discusses the game without the NFL's permission. The NFL would be laughed out of court for trying to prevent them from doing so. Just because you have a copyright in a work doesn't mean you can prevent people from talking about it. Copyright simply doesn't extend that far. When I was in college, parking was $500 semester, which I couldn't afford. I simply went to class each day until I got a parking ticket. I went online, paid the $50 fine, but kept the ticket. Every time I would park on campus, I would toss the ticket out onto my windshield so that the parking police thought I was already ticketed. This worked for 2 years, $1,000 worth of parking for $100, and then I came out of class one day to find 2 tickets and note that said "nice try." When I was in college, someone figured out that you could add time to the old non-digital parking meters by shoving a popsicle stick in the coin slot repeatedly. My friend and I went around filling people's meters for months. Not all heroes wear capes. My university parking tickets are also $50, and the university parking people will ticket you. They are too good at their jobs. However, the city parking tickets are only $13, and no one at the city is good at their job. So I'd park in 2-hour parking and hope for the best. I only got ticketed 2 or 3 times, so less than $50 as opposed to $400 a semester. And I'm at the end of my PhD now. No more classes, so I'm not on campus ever anymore. I saved approximately $5,600 by just letting the city occasionally ticket me. I don't understand why students with mailing addresses further out than a bus ride can't get a free campus parking permit for certain parking lots. They're already paying extra dollars out of pocket to come to campus. I illegally jaywalk all the time. I just can't resist the thrill of crossing the street wherever I please. There are apparently no laws governing jaywalking in the UK, so it made the national news there when a British professor was actually arrested for jaywalking while attending a conference in Atlanta. Yea, the land of the free, and you can't even cross the road when you like. I'd like to know how many people cheat on their taxes just because they're ignorant to what they're supposed to do pay. I'm sure many of us. The IRS caught me once, and I honestly had no idea I was doing it wrong. Apparently my accountant should have told me, and they never did. But I got a new accountant who helped me rectify it, and the IRS didn't even charge me the fine in the end. It's a huge misconception that the IRS comes after you if you mess up. They are well aware that taxes are confusing, so if it's clearly just a mistake typo, they'll just let you know and tell you to refile. They only come after you with fines and charges if you intentionally try and deceive them, which usually goes far beyond just typing in a wrong number somewhere. I cut my own hair in my house, but I'm not registered as a hairdresser under the 1939 Hairdressers Act. You monster. Pretty sure that's only for operating a business as a barber hairdresser, and not for personal haircutting where money isn't involved. I pay myself to make it illegal. Gets me off. I cut my husband's hair and then we went out for supper and he paid for it. Time to look up the closest non-extradition country. Downloading music through YouTube to MP3. I got my entire iPod Nano filled with music this way. My mom thought I spent so much money on music. Before I learned that you could do that, I used regular video downloaders and just had a bunch of music videos on mine. I ran out of space pretty quickly, so I had to rotate them a lot. I feel you. The trouble of doing a lot of songs for big trip. I download a new car every other day. You wouldn't? I heard the music from these ads when I read your comment. Hilarious irony that they never had permission to use that music. You wouldn't illegally feature music in your anti-piracy ad. I have never told anyone about this before, but back when I was 15, 1979, I stole a Datsun 240Z car in my neighborhood. I was walking home from a friend's house one hot summer night, and as I walked by this cool Z car, I noticed a single key sticking out of the driver's door lock. I had always thought that that car was cool, and thought it would have been amazing to drive. Well, it was, so I kinda looked around and saw no signs of life anywhere, so I got in and drove it off. It was a super nice car. I drove all around the valley, grew up in Palm Springs. This car was too nice to be treated to a joyride, so after a few hours of driving it, I took it back and parked it right back in its parking spot at about 4 a.m. I figured it was very unlikely that the owner would even know it had been driven, other than it missing about a third of a tank of gas. But I did keep the key, because they would think they just misplaced it somewhere. And I guess that's exactly what they did, because a couple of weeks later, I did the same thing. Only this time it was almost out of gas, so I had to put some in it. Did the second time just like the first time. About a week later, I did it again. That time I drove it up to Big Bear Lake because I was dying to drive it on mountain roads. It was a blast. Until I stopped at a little gas market to get a snack and bumped into one of my older brother's good friends who knew I was only 15 and didn't have a driver's license or a car, much less a vintage sports car. I can't remember the lies I told him, but knew I was going to be in deep trouble when I got home. I hurried back to PS, stopped at 7-Eleven and filled the car with gas and snuck it back into their driveway, took a pen and scribbled out a thank you note, and told them that I really loved their car and they really shouldn't leave the key in the door overnight. Oh, and by the way, I filled the tank for you, thanks. Oh, and my brother's friend. He never said a word to anyone about seeing me. Allowing my donkey to sleep in my bathtub in the state of Arizona. I understand. I break the law in a similar way here in Alabama. It's just not a summer day if I don't have an ice cream cone in my back pocket when I'm out in town. I'm trying to steal people's horses by luring them with my ice cream, don't tell the sheriff. Oh, thank God, I thought you were luring children. I'm going to need to know why they need the horses before I forgive and forget. Illegally downloading movies from pirated sites and illegally using pirated software. My VPN expired and I got busted downloading the Terminal 2004, shaking my head. Always bind your torrent client to your VPN interface, kids. If your VPN goes down, your torrent client has no way to reach the internet, saving you from this potential situation. Yeah, I pay for NordVPN for this purpose. Back in the early file sharing days, I actually got busted for sharing a Metallica song, got a really nasty letter from their legal team, and was genuinely terrified that I was going to have to pay some outrageous amount. Spoke to a lawyer friend who said to ignore it. I did, and nothing happened. Obviously, I stopped sharing, so I guess it was effective in that regard. I buy organic veggies and ring it up as non-organic in self-checkout. I grab inorganic stuff and ring it as non-organic veggies. That's how I got a diamond ring for the price of a romaine lettuce. Self-checkout is where 50% of retail theft happens, for reasons like this. My store has a guy we know as Mr. Tomato TV, because at least once a month, he prints out a sticker that has a barcode for a 0.79 can of tomato paste. He sticks it over the barcode for a $700 television and tries to buy the TV for 0.79 at self-checkout. We always catch him and he always acts shocked and offended. Oh, wow, how could that happen? You guys need to pay better attention to your products. Glad you caught that. Oh, I don't think I'll buy it today. Bye now. We explored some pretty unusual ways people break laws and rules. Remember, breaking laws can have serious consequences, so it's important to act responsibly. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new releases. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about the examples discussed and how you feel about such situations. Wishing you all the best.